In this episode of Defining Diabetes, Jenny Smith and I are going to define honeymooning. Yes, that odd and unpredictable time in type 1 diabetes. Please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise, and to always consult a physician before becoming bold with insulin or making any changes to your medical plan. Can you please define honeymooning?
That's a good one. So honeymooning is essentially the time period after diagnosis for people with type 1 diabetes, when the pancreas is still really able to produce an amount of insulin, which decreases your overall insulin need in that early phase after diagnosis. And early phase could be defined by 2 months. It could be defined as maybe even up to a year. Some people may honeymoon. Essentially, you have lower insulin needs. You respond to insulin better. Some people also find that with better upfront glucose control after diagnosis, honeymoon lasts longer because the pancreatic beta cells are not stressed with the injected or pumped insulin, so they don't have as much work to do to keep blood sugar down and respond. You may honeymoon longer the better control you have post-diagnosis.
Okay. Now, for those of you who are married, I think the reason honeymooning has been applied to the part of diabetes when your pancreas is still helping out a little bit and giving you a break is it's not so much that you can call it a honeymoon, which obviously is defined online as a vacation spent together by a newly married couple. But it's because it's so that you can one day say the honeymoon is over. That's why I think we call honeymooning in diabetes. So it's so that one day you can make that statement and really feel the weight of it. For those of you who've been married for a very long time, I feel like you already understand what I'm saying. But for those of you who are still young and hopeful and excited or newly married, there will be a time when it'll be exciting to see your husband get tired and fall asleep before you. You'll be like, oh, thank God that guy's going to leave me alone tonight, right? Like that's when you know the honeymoon's over. When you think of vacation is, just taking a day off from work and not going anywhere and sitting around, you don't care anymore. I heard somebody say once, when you're buying your underwear at a big box store, you've been married for quite some time. So yeah. I think that is the idea. And it is important to realize that in the beginning, we always say you need to be a little more careful with insulin because it's possible you could give yourself insulin during the honeymoon period and then your pancreas could wake up and go, hey, here, did you need some insulin? Right? Yeah. And that makes honeymooning difficult. I often tell people, as crazy as it sounds, it's going to get easier when the honeymoon's over because at least there's stability that you can expect.
There's less unknown.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It takes the unknowns away.
Yep, it does.
Right. So, again, if you're disappointed that your husband forgot your birthday, your honeymoon is over. When you come to expect that he's going to forget your birthday, that's when you're cruising along with diabetes. There we go. That's easy. All right. I like that one. You don't want to miss the Diabetes Pro Tip series that Jenny and I did recently. It begins back at episode 210. With Diabetes Pro Tip, newly diagnosed or starting over. After that, it's episode 211, all about MDI. Episode 212, all about insulin. In episode 217, we talk about pre-bolusing. In 218, temp basiling. In 219, insulin pumping. In 224, mastering your CGM. In 225, bumping and nudging. In 226, the perfect bolus. And in 231, we talk about variables. The latest installment just went up a few days ago, and it's about setting your basal rates. Thanks for checking out Defining Diabetes. Come back every Friday as Jenny and I break down a new word or phrase that is impacting your life with type 1 diabetes. The Juicebox Podcast is available everywhere that you get audio. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music. Really, any audio app that you can think of. Picture one in your mind right now. The show is on that one. And if you can't think of an audio app, just go to juiceboxpodcast.com and you'll find some links. Don't forget to subscribe and follow.